You want to know how a single human turned the bloodiest siege in galactic history into a 14-minute masterpiece of controlled violence? Fine, but do not blame me when you lose sleep tonight, wondering how your species survived this long without understanding what these creatures truly are. My name is Thrakavil, Senior Combat Analyst for the Corvani Military Intelligence Division. I have witnessed the fall of 17 worlds, documented the tactics of 43 species, and catalogued over 2,000 distinct forms of warfare. I thought I had seen everything. I was wrong. It started 3 months ago on Kepler 432b, a mining colony that nobody particularly cared about until the hegemony decided they wanted its lithium deposits. The siege had been dragging on for 6 standard weeks. 6 weeks of grinding, bloody, pointless attrition that was bleeding both sides dry. The humans had sent a relief force, naturally. They always do. Something about never leaving anyone behind and other such sentimental nonsense that makes them tactically predictable. What made this interesting was their choice of personnel. Command. This is Captain Torres. We are requesting immediate medical support for the ground assault. The transmission crackled through our intercepted communications as I monitored from my observation post 3 clicks away. Copy that, Torres. We are sending Medic Riley Marcus. ETA 14 minutes to your position. I remember laughing. Actually laughing out loud in my observation bunker. A medic. They were sending a single medic to support an assault on a fortified position that had already claimed over 3,000 casualties. The tactical absurdity was breathtaking. Sir, my aide, Krau Min, looked up from his sensor array. The human-designated Riley Marcus is approaching the combat zone. Should we adjust our firing solutions? A medic. Krau Min. One medic. I gestured dismissively. Continue monitoring. This should provide excellent data on human psychological resilience when faced with hopeless situations. The humans had been hammering against our defensive positions for weeks with conventional tactics. Frontal assaults, artillery bombardments, the occasional flanking maneuver. All predictable. All countered, all resulting in more human bodies scattered across the blood-soaked ground that used to be a peaceful mining settlement. Our defensive line was a masterpiece of military engineering. 3 layers of overlapping fire zones, automated defense turrets, energy barriers, and enough concentrated firepower to level a small city. Behind it all, 2,000 of the hegemony's finest warriors armed with the latest plasma weaponry and supported by orbital bombardment capabilities. Against this, the humans had thrown approximately 1,500 infantry, supported by outdated kinetic weapons and pure stubborn determination. The mathematics were simple. The outcome was inevitable, or so I thought. Sir, the medic has arrived at the human forward position. Krelemin's voice held a note of confusion. He is talking to Captain Torres. I activated the audio sensors. Human battlefield communications were always entertaining. All that emotional chatter, concern for casualties, motivational speeches about honor and duty. It made them easy to predict and easier to counter. Torres. What is the situation? The voice was calm, almost conversational. No fear, no urgency, just professional curiosity. Riley, thank the gods you are here. We have 43 wounded, 17 critical. The enemy has us pinned down in a kill zone. Every time we try to advance, they cut us apart. We have lost almost 200 soldiers in the last 3 hours alone. I see. A pause. Captain, I need you to pull all of your soldiers back exactly 50 meters from their current positions. Riley, we barely have any cover here as it is. If we fall back, they will have clear lines of fire on our entire force. Trust me, Captain. Exactly 50 meters. Do it now. I watched through my tactical display as the human soldiers began their withdrawal. Exactly as predicted, our automated systems opened up with devastating effect. Plasma bolts and particle beams turned the air into a light show of death. The retreat became a rout. Fascinating, I murmured to Krautmann. The medic has just orchestrated the complete collapse of their assault. Perhaps human military doctrine has finally evolved beyond their emotional limitations. But something felt wrong. The medic's voice had held no panic, no disappointment, just that same calm professionalism. Captain Torres, How many wounded do you have now? Riley, we are up to 68 wounded, 23 critical. This is a disaster. We need immediate evacuation. Negative. On the evacuation, I need you to maintain position exactly where you are. Do not advance. Do not retreat. Can you do that for me? What? Riley, we are sitting ducks here. They are going to pick us apart. Captain, I am going to ask you to trust me one more time. Keep your soldiers exactly where they are. I will be back in 10 minutes. The medic's signal went dark. I turned to Kralman with satisfaction. Classic human emotional breakdown. The medic has abandoned his post. Begin tracking him for capture. He will provide excellent intelligence on human psychological warfare capabilities. Sir, I am not detecting the medic's biosignature. What do you mean you are not detecting it? Sir, his location beacon went offline approximately 30 seconds ago. All thermal sensors show negative contact. He has simply vanished. This was unexpected. Humans were many things, but they were not capable of advanced stealth technology. Their equipment was primitive, their tactics straightforward. They did not simply vanish. Expand the search grid. Check for equipment malfunctions. Humans do not possess active camouflage. For 8 minutes, we found nothing. 8 minutes of radio silence while the human soldiers huddled in their exposed positions, taking sporadic fire from our automated systems. 8 minutes of watching Captain Torres try to maintain morale while his soldiers bled out in the mud. Then the screaming started. Not human screaming. That would have made sense. This was coming from our own lines. Control. This is Perimeter Station 7. We have lost contact with Automated Defense Grid Section 12. All sensor readings show negative. Control, Perimeter Station 9 reporting. Something is wrong with the power grid. We are experiencing systematic failures across all defensive networks. Control, this is... Oh gods, there is something in the... Contact. Unknown hostiles inside the perimeter. Requesting immediate... ARG. The transmission cut to static. I stared at my tactical display in growing disbelief. Red warning indicators were appearing across our defensive network, not from external assault, from inside our own perimeter. Sir, Krala Min's voice was tight with confusion. I am reading massive system failures throughout the defensive grid. It appears to be cascading from the inside out. That is impossible. Our perimeter is sealed. Nothing could have gotten past 3 layers of sensors and energy barriers. Sir, I am detecting movement in sectors 15 through 22. Unknown signatures. Moving fast. Avoiding direct contact with our forces. How many? Sir, I am only reading 1 signature. One hostile signature was systematically dismantling a defensive network that had taken 6 weeks to establish. 1 signature was moving through fortified positions like they were made of paper. Activate all internal sensors. I want to know what is happening down there. The feed from Perimeter Station 12 came online just in time to show me something that redefined my understanding of human warfare capabilities. A figure in standard human medical gear was methodically working through our automated defense turrets, not destroying them with explosives or energy weapons, taking them apart with his hand. I watched this medic reach into a plasma turret housing and simply rearrange things. Sparks flew, the weapon powered down, and then he moved to the next one. Calm, efficient, professional. Sir, Perimeter Stations 14, 16, and 18 have all gone dark. Power grid failures spreading to secondary systems. How is this possible? Those are hardened military installations. They cannot be disabled by a single individual with basic tools. But even as I said it, I was watching the medic do exactly that. He moved between positions with purpose, avoiding patrols, circumventing sensors, and systematically destroying our defensive capabilities from the inside. Then I realized what he was doing. Kralamain, pull up the schematics for our defensive grid. Yes, sir. Cross-reference with the positions he has hit. The pattern became clear immediately. Every position he had targeted was a critical node in our defensive network. Not random sabotage. Surgical strikes designed to cascade failures throughout the entire system. Sir, if he continues on his current trajectory, he will reach the primary power distribution hub in approximately 3 minutes. Can we stop him? Sir, we have 2 full squads of security personnel between his position and the hub. I activated the communications array. All units. This is command. We have a hostile infiltrator moving through sectors 18 and 19. Single target. Human medic designation. Riley Marcus. All squads converge on his position and neutralize immediately. Command. This is squad leader Torvin. We have eyes on the target. Moving to engage. I watched the tactical display as 24 of our finest soldiers moved to intercept one human medic armed with medical supplies and basic tools. The engagement lasted 47 seconds. When it was over, 12 soldiers were unconscious. 8 were suffering from various non-lethal injuries, and 4 were requesting immediate medical attention. The medic continued toward the power hub without apparent concern. Command. This is squad leader Marin. What are we fighting? That was not normal human combat behavior. Explain your report, squad leader. Sir, he did not use weapons. He did not attempt to kill anyone. He just moved through us. Like we were obstacles instead of opponents. Sir, I have been in combat for 15 years and I have never seen anything like it. I watched the medic reach the power distribution hub. Instead of explosives or energy weapons, he produced what appeared to be a standard medical diagnostic tool. He connected it to the primary control interface and began entering commands. Sir, he is accessing our power grid directly. How does a medic know our technical specifications? I do not know, Krelamine. I do not know. Every light in our defensive perimeter went dark simultaneously. The tactical display showed a cascade of failures spreading through our entire defensive network. Automated weapons went offline. Energy barriers collapsed. Communication arrays failed. In the space of 2 minutes, our impenetrable fortress had become a collection of useless buildings. Then Captain Torres's voice crackled over the radio. Riley? Whatever you just did, our sensors are showing complete system failure across the enemy defensive line. Confirmed, Captain. Defensive grid is down. You have approximately 8 minutes before their backup generators come online. I suggest you move quickly. All units, this is Captain Torres. Begin assault immediately. All positions are now undefended. Move, move, move. I watched 1,500 human soldiers pour through gaps in our defensive line that had not existed 10 minutes earlier, without automated weapons support, without energy barriers, without communication coordination. Our forces were suddenly fighting a completely different battle, a battle they were losing. Sir, should we request orbital bombardment? Our ground forces are being overrun. Negative, Kralamin. Orbital bombardment would destroy the mining facilities. The entire point of this operation was resource acquisition, which meant we were trapped in a ground engagement that had suddenly shifted from a siege to a rout. Sir, incoming transmission from the medic. Put it through. This is Riley Marcus. To Corvani Command. I am requesting immediate medical evacuation for your wounded. We have established field hospitals at coordinates Gamma 7 and Delta 12. Your soldiers will receive full medical treatment consistent with Galactic warfare conventions. I stared at the transmission display. He is offering to treat our wounded? Sir, that appears to be correct. While his forces are overrunning our positions? Yes, sir. This is Corvani Command to Riley Marcus. What are your terms for ceasefire? No ceasefire necessary, Command. This is a medical operation. Your wounded will be treated regardless of combat status. Please coordinate with Captain Torres for logistics. Riley Marcus, you have disabled our defensive grid, defeated 2 full combat squads, and enabled your forces to break our siege. Now you are offering medical aid. Command, I am a medic. My job is to save lives. The tactical situation is irrelevant to medical necessity. I looked at Kralamin. How long did that entire operation take? Sir, from the time the medic arrived at the forward position to the collapse of our defensive grid, exactly 14 minutes and 37 seconds. 14 minutes. In 14 minutes, one human medic had accomplished what 6 weeks of conventional assault had failed to achieve. Not through superior firepower, not through advanced technology, not through overwhelming numbers, through understanding. Cao Min, compile a full tactical analysis of this engagement. I want to know how he did it. Sir, should I classify this as a medical operation or a combat engagement? I watched the medic moving through our disabled defensive positions, tending to wounded soldiers from both sides with equal professionalism. I honestly do not know, Crowman. I do not know. But one thing was becoming clear. Everything we thought we knew about human warfare capabilities was wrong. Dead wrong. And if one medic could do this, what could their actual soldiers accomplish? That thought kept me awake for the next 3 days. It would take me much longer to understand what I had really witnessed that day. The medic they called non-combat had not redefined warfare through violence or superior technology. He had redefined it through competence. And competence, I was learning, was humanity's most terrifying weapon. 3 days after Riley Marcus turned our fortress into scrap metal, I thought I understood humans. I was about to learn how spectacularly wrong I could be. Sir, we have a problem. Krallman's voice cut through my morning briefing with command. The humans are requesting a meeting. A meeting? I set down my tactical analysis reports. 3 days of sleepless review had left me with more questions than answers. What kind of meeting? Face-to-face negotiation, sir. They want to discuss terms for the remaining hegemony forces on Kepler-42b. I almost laughed. Terms? Krallman. They control the entire mining facility. They hold our defensive positions. They have our wounded in their medical facilities. What exactly do they think there is to negotiate? Sir, they specifically requested you by name. That stopped me cold. Me? How do they even know who I am? Unknown, sir. The transmission came directly from Captain Torres. He said, and I quote, "We would like to speak with Senior Combat Analyst Threk Vel about tactical cooperation opportunities." Tactical cooperation. The phrase sent ice through my veins. What did humans mean by tactical cooperation? And how had they identified me as their primary intelligence analyst? Sir, there is more. They have requested that you bring a full technical team to assess what they call infrastructure improvements. Infrastructure improvements to what? Sir, they want to show us their modifications to our defensive grid. My blood pressure spiked. Modifications? Krallman, they destroyed our defensive grid. Sir, that is what I thought as well. However, our morning reconnaissance shows that all defensive systems are back online, not only online but operating at 112% efficiency. I stared at him. That is impossible. Sir, I have confirmed readings from 17 different sensor arrays. Whatever Riley Marcus did to our systems, he improved them. Improved them? He disabled them. Yes, sir. For exactly 8 minutes and 37 seconds. Then they came back online. Better than before. I called up the reconnaissance data on my display. Every defense turret, every energy barrier, every sensor array showed green status indicators. Not just functional. Enhanced. How is this possible? Sir, I believe they want to explain that to you in person. 2 hours later, I found myself walking through what used to be our impregnable fortress, accompanied by a technical assessment team and a very uncomfortable feeling that I was missing something fundamental about human psychology. Captain Torres met us at the main gate, or rather what used to be the main gate. The humans had apparently decided that the entrance needed improvement as well. Senior Analyst Threk Vel. Torres extended his hand in the bizarre human greeting ritual. Thank you for accepting our invitation. Captain Torres. I cautiously returned the gesture. I admit to curiosity about your modifications. Oh, you are going to love this. Torres grinned with what I had learned to recognize as human humor. Riley outdid himself this time. Follow me. As we walked through the facility, I noticed something that made my tactical assessment protocols scream warnings. Every modification, every improvement, every change the humans had made was designed to make our defensive positions more effective. Not for human use, for ours. Captain Torres, I must ask, why are you improving our fortifications? Because, Senior Analyst, You built them wrong. Wrong? Spectacularly wrong. No offense intended, but your species appears to have some fundamental misconceptions about defensive warfare. I stopped walking. Misconception. Riley can explain it better than I can. He has been working on this for the past 3 days. Torres gestured toward a figure hunched over a control console that definitely had not been part of our original design. Riley Marcus looked up as we approached. He appeared exactly as he had 3 days ago. Calm, professional, completely unaware that he had single-handedly redefined galactic warfare doctrine. Senior Analyst Frake Vell. He nodded politely. I hope you do not mind, but I took the liberty of fixing some issues with your defensive grid. Issues? Well, to be honest, the entire system was designed backwards. I felt my mandibles clench. Backwards? Your defensive positions were optimized for siege warfare. Long-term attrition designed to wear down attacking forces through sustained casualties. Riley gestured at the modified control systems. But you were fighting humans. And humans are different because humans do not do siege warfare, Senior Analyst. We do problem solving. He activated a holographic display showing our original defensive configuration. This is what you built. 3 overlapping kill zones. Automated weapons platforms. Energy barriers. Very impressive for conventional warfare. The display shifted, showing the modifications he had made. This is what it should have been. I stared at the hologram. The new configuration was elegant. Instead of 3 static kill zones, the defenses were organized into adaptive response networks. Instead of overlapping fields of fire, they created channeling corridors that could be adjusted in real time. Instead of automated systems, they were integrated with manual override capabilities that allowed for tactical flexibility. You turned our fortress into a thinking defensive network. Exactly. Your original design assumed that attackers would behave predictably. It was optimized for enemies who would advance in formation, engage in sustained firefights, and accept casualties as a necessary cost of warfare. Riley pulled up another display. But humans are not predictable. We adapt. We find weaknesses. We solve problems. Your static defenses could never counter human tactical flexibility. So you made them flexible as well. I made them better than flexible. I made them adaptive. He walked over to another console. Watch this. Riley activated a simulation showing various attack scenarios against the modified defenses. I watched in growing amazement as the defensive grid responded to each threat with customized countermeasures. Flanking attacks were channeled into prepared kill zones. Frontal assaults were met with concentrated fire. Infiltration attempts triggered perimeter adjustments that sealed penetration routes. How? Pattern recognition software integrated with tactical assessment algorithms. The system learns from each engagement and modifies its response parameters accordingly. I turned to Král Min. Did you understand any of that? Sir, I believe he turned our fortress into something that thinks. Not thinks, Riley corrected. Learns. There is a difference. Captain Torres stepped forward. Senior Analyst, this brings us to our proposal. Proposal? We would like to offer you a tactical cooperation agreement. I stared at him. You want to cooperate with us? After defeating us in 14 minutes? We did not defeat you. We solved a problem. Your defensive grid was inefficient. We made it efficient. Your tactical doctrine was inflexible. We showed you flexibility. Your casualties were unnecessary. We provided medical treatment. Torres activated another display. The hegemony has been fighting this war for 18 months. Casualties on both sides exceed 2 million. Infrastructure damage is estimated at over 400 billion credits. None of it necessary. War is necessary for resource acquisition. War is necessary when diplomacy fails, Riley corrected. But you never tried diplomacy. Humans do not negotiate from positions of strength. Senior Analyst, let me ask you a question. Torres leaned forward. What do you think our position was 3 days ago? Tactically compromised. 1,500 soldiers against an entrenched defensive position with orbital support. And yet we took your fortress in 14 minutes. Through unconventional tactics that exploited our defensive assumptions. No, Riley said quietly. Through understanding. Understanding what? Understanding that you built your defenses to fight the wrong enemy. Riley brought up a new set of schematics. Your entire defensive doctrine is based on species that fight for territory, resources, or ideology. You assume that warfare is about defeating opponents through superior firepower and tactical positioning. Is it not? Humans fight for people, senior analyst. We fight to protect, to preserve, to save lives. When you threatened the mining colony, you were not threatening our resources or our territory. You were threatening our people. The difference being that when you fight for resources, you can accept losses as economically justifiable. When you fight for territory, you can retreat and regroup. When you fight for people, Riley's voice hardened. There is no acceptable level of casualties. Captain Torres nodded. Which means we do not fight to win. We fight to end the fighting. I looked between them. End the fighting? Senior analyst. What do you think would happen if we applied Riley's methods to the entire hegemony defensive network? The implications hit me like a plasma bolt to the chest. If they could disable our most secure facility in 14 minutes, if they could improve our defensive systems beyond our own capabilities, if they could systematically identify and exploit weaknesses we did not even know existed, you could end the war. We could end the war, Torres confirmed. In approximately 6 weeks. By defeating every hegemony position in the galaxy. By making every hegemony position better than it was before we arrived. Riley pulled up another set of displays. Senior analyst, look at these casualty projections. The numbers were staggering. If the war continued under current parameters, total casualties would exceed 10 million within 2 years. Infrastructure damage would cripple both civilizations for decades. Economic recovery would take generations. Now look at these projections. The second set of numbers showed a completely different outcome. Minimal casualties, infrastructure improvement, economic cooperation, technological advancement. How? By turning every engagement into a problem-solving exercise instead of a deathmatch. Torres activated one final display. Senior analyst, we are offering you a choice. You can continue fighting a war that will destroy both of our civilizations. Or you can help us end it. What would cooperation involve? Technical exchange, tactical assessment, infrastructure improvement, medical cooperation, and most importantly, a fundamental change in how both of our species approach conflict resolution. I looked at the modified defensive systems around us. 3 days ago, they had been our pride, our unbreakable fortress. Now they were something better. Something that protected instead of just killing. And if we refuse? Riley and Torres exchanged a look that made my blood freeze. Senior analyst, Riley said quietly, we have been monitoring hegemony communications for the past 3 days. We know about the reinforcement fleet. 12 dreadnoughts, 48 cruisers, and 200 escort vessels. They will arrive in 6 days. You cannot possibly oppose a fleet of that magnitude. We are not going to oppose it, Torres said. We are going to fix it. Fix it? Senior analyst. Those ships were built using the same tactical assumptions as this fortress. Static defensive thinking, predictable weapons platforms, inflexible command structures. Riley nodded. We have already identified 47 critical vulnerabilities in hegemony fleet design. We can exploit every single one of them. In 14 minutes, per ship, Torres confirmed. Maybe less, depending on crew cooperation. I stared at them in growing horror. They were not bragging. They were not threatening. They were simply stating facts. You could disable our entire fleet. We could disable your entire fleet, Riley agreed. Or we could upgrade it. The choice, Torres said, is yours. I looked around at the transformed defensive positions, at systems that had been made better instead of destroyed, at enemies who had become healers, teachers, improvers instead of conquerors. Krauman, what is your assessment? My aide had been unusually quiet during the entire presentation. Now he spoke with careful precision. Sir, I believe we are not fighting a war anymore. I believe we are taking an examination, and I believe we are failing badly. Riley smiled. Nobody fails, Krauman. Some people just need more time to learn. Learn what? That the most effective way to defeat an enemy is to turn them into a friend. Captain Torres checked his chronometer. Senior Analyst, we need your decision within the next 4 hours. The reinforcement fleet will be expecting status reports. You can either tell them to prepare for enhanced defensive cooperation, or you can tell them to prepare for the shortest space battle in galactic history. I thought about 14 minutes. About defensive systems that learned, about medics who redefined warfare through competence instead of violence. Captain Torres, if we agree to cooperation, what guarantees do we have that you will not use our own improved systems against us? The same guarantee you have right now, Senior Analyst. That we could have done it already if we wanted to. Riley gestured at the surrounding defenses. These systems are now capable of detecting and countering human infiltration techniques. If we wanted to betray you, we would not have given you the tools to stop us. You improved our defenses against yourselves. We improved your defenses, period. Good defenses systems work against everyone, including their creators. Torres nodded. Senior Analyst, humans have a saying, the best defense is a good offense. But Riley has taught us something better, which is, the best defense is good neighbors. I looked at Kralamen, who nodded slowly. Captain Torres, I will need to communicate with my superiors. Of course, take all the time you need. We will be here, continuing to improve your defensive grid. Why? Because, Riley said simply, it is what we do. As we walked back toward our communications center, Krellman leaned close to me. Sir, what are we going to tell Command? I thought about that question for a long time. The truth, Krellman, that we have encountered a species that defeats enemies by making them better than they were before. And if Command orders us to continue fighting, I looked back at the human medic who had redefined warfare in 14 minutes, who was now improving our defenses against his own people, who treated our wounded while his soldiers secured our positions. Then, Kralmin, I suspect we are about to learn exactly how good human soldiers are when they stop being helpful. That thought terrified me more than anything I had experienced in 20 years of military service, and I was starting to suspect that was exactly the point. You want to know how the story ends? How a medic who fixed our defenses instead of destroying them changed the course of galactic history. Fine. But understand this. What happened next was not warfare as any civilized species understands it. It was education. And humans, I learned, are very thorough teachers. Sir, the hegemony fleet has dropped out of hyperspace. Korlomin's voice was tight with tension. 12 dreadnoughts, 48 cruisers, 200 escort vessels. They are requesting immediate status reports. I stared at the tactical display showing our reinforcements arranged in perfect battle formation. Standard hegemony doctrine. Overwhelming firepower deployed in predictable patterns. Everything that Riley Marcus had spent 6 days teaching me was wrong. What do I tell them, Krillmen? Sir, Command is expecting confirmation that the human forces have been eliminated and the mining facility secured. I looked through the observation port at Riley Marcus, who is currently training a mixed team of human and Corvani technicians on advanced defensive system integration. Captain Torres stood nearby, reviewing tactical assessments with our own strategic planning division. 6 days of cooperation had taught me more about warfare than 20 years of military service. The humans had not conquered us. They had not enslaved us. They had not demanded tribute or territorial concession. They had made us better at everything we did. Sir, Admiral Corvan is requesting personal communication. Priority Alpha. I activated the communication array with deep reluctance. Admiral Corvan appeared on screen, his expression showing the cold satisfaction of impending victory. Senior Analyst, Thrakvel. Report on current tactical situation. Admiral, the situation is complex. Complex? You have had 6 days to eliminate 1,500 human soldiers. How complex could it possibly be? I glanced at Kralman, who was monitoring human communications. He shook his head slightly. No indication that they were preparing for battle. No defensive postures. No weapons charging. Admiral, the humans have made an offer of tactical cooperation. Tactical cooperation? Corvan's voice dropped to a dangerous level. Analyst, are you suggesting we negotiate with defeated enemies? Sir, they are not defeated. 1,500 soldiers against our planetary assault force. and they are not defeated. Admiral, they have improved our defensive capabilities by 40%. They have provided medical treatment for all of our wounded. They have shared advanced technical specifications that have revolutionized our understanding of defensive warfare. They have what? Sir, I recommend that you consider their cooperation proposal before initiating any hostile actions. Admiral Corvin's expression shifted from satisfaction to fury. Analyst, are you suffering from some form of psychological compromise? Have the humans used mind control technology against you? Sir, they have used competence against me. Competence? Admiral, I strongly advise against engaging human forces with conventional tactics. They do not respond to traditional military pressure. Analyst, I am giving you a direct order. Provide targeting coordinates for our orbital bombardment. We will eliminate the human infestation and secure the mining facility. I looked at the targeting console. 6 days ago, I would have provided those coordinates without hesitation. Now, the thought of orbital bombardment against the people who had saved our wounded and improved our defenses felt like betrayal. Admiral, I cannot provide those coordinates. You cannot? Or you will not? Sir, the human positions are integrated with our own facilities. Orbital bombardment would destroy everything we have built here. Then we will rebuild. Provide the coordinates, analyst. It is a direct order. I glanced at Creel Min again. He was monitoring the human communications with growing amazement. Sir, the humans they are not preparing for battle. What are they doing? Sir, they appear to be preparing for a demonstration. A demonstration of what? Before Creel Min could answer, Captain Torres's voice came through the communication array. Admiral Corvin, this is Captain Torres of the Terran Defense Force. We would like to welcome your fleet to the Kepler 442b system. Admiral Corvin's face appeared on split screen. Captain Torres, you are surrounded by superior forces. I am offering you one opportunity to surrender unconditionally. Thank you for the offer, Admiral. We appreciate your consideration. However, we have a counter-proposal. The hegemony does not negotiate with terrorists. We are not terrorists, Admiral. We are problem solvers, and you have a very big problem. The only problem I have is removing you from this system. Torres smiled with that particular human expression that I had learned to fear. Admiral, are you familiar with the tactical specifications of your own fleet? What kind of question is that? A relevant one. Medic Marcus has been reviewing your ship designs for the past 6 days. He has identified some issues. Riley Marcus stepped into view of the communication array. Still calm, still professional, still carrying medical equipment instead of weapons. Admiral Corvin, your Dreadnought-class vessels have 17 critical vulnerabilities in their defensive grid configuration. Your cruiser classes have 23 structural weaknesses in their power distribution systems. Your escort vessels are using targeting computers that can be compromised through their own communication arrays. Admiral Corvin stared at the screen. How could you possibly know our technical specifications? Admiral, we have been fighting alongside your people for 6 days. We have been sharing technical information and tactical assessments. We know everything about your ships because your own analysts told us. I felt ice forming in my veins. During our cooperation, we had shared everything. Technical manuals, tactical doctrines, strategic assessments. We had given them complete intelligence on our entire military structure because they had asked, politely, as part of improving our defensive capabilities. Admiral, Riley continued, we would prefer not to demonstrate these vulnerabilities. However, if you insist on hostile action, we will be forced to provide practical examples. You are threatening my fleet with what? Medical equipment? Admiral, I am threatening your fleet with understanding. Torres stepped forward. Admiral Corvin, we are offering you the same choice we offered Senior Analyst Thrakvel. Cooperation or education? Education. Yes, Admiral, we can teach you why conventional fleet tactics are insufficient against human problem-solving capabilities. You have 1,500 soldiers against 260 capital ships. Admiral, we have 1 medic against your entire tactical doctrine. The numbers are not in your favor. I watched Admiral Corvin's expression shift from confidence to confusion to growing alarm. Analyst Thrakvel, what have you told them? Sir, I have told them everything you need to know to make your fleet better. Better at what? Riley Marcus stepped forward again. Better at staying alive, Admiral. Medic Marcus? Admiral Corvin's voice was dangerously controlled. You have 30 seconds to explain your threat before I commence orbital bombardment. Not a threat, Admiral, a demonstration. Riley pulled out what appeared to be a standard medical diagnostic scanner. The same device he had used to disable our defensive grid 6 days earlier. Admiral, your flagship, the mighty Corvin, is currently experiencing a minor fluctuation in its primary power coupling. RID Section 12, Sublevel 7. Nothing dangerous. Yet, how could you possibly know that? Because, Admiral, 6 days ago I asked Senior Analyst Thrak Vel for technical specifications on hegemony ship design. He was very helpful. On the tactical display, I watched the readings from Admiral Corvin's flagship, power coupling fluctuations in Grid Section 12. Exactly as Riley had described. That is impossible. You are not connected to our ship systems. Admiral, I do not need to be connected to your ship systems. I understand your ship systems. Riley made an adjustment to his diagnostic scanner. On the tactical display, the power fluctuations on the flagship increased. How are you doing that? Resonance harmonics. Admiral, every ship broadcasts a unique electromagnetic signature. If you know the technical specifications, you can identify the frequency patterns that correspond to specific systems. Another adjustment. The flagship's secondary power grid began showing instabilities. You are sabotaging my ship. No, Admiral. I am tuning it. Tuning it? Your power distribution system is operating at 68% efficiency. I am showing you what 100% efficiency looks like. The tactical display shifted. Instead of power fluctuations, the flagship began showing across-the-board improvements in system performance. Faster targeting systems, more efficient engine operation, enhanced defensive capabilities. Admiral Torfax said quietly, Medic Marcus just improved your flagship's combat capabilities by 32%, from a range of 3,000 kilometers. Using medical equipment. That is impossible. Admiral, that is what I said 6 days ago. I watched Admiral Corvin stare at his own tactical displays, trying to process what he was seeing. His flagship was performing better than it had since the day it was commissioned. Now, Admiral, Riley continued, would you like to see what happens when I stop being helpful? What do you mean? Riley made another adjustment to his scanner. Every warning indicator on the flagship's bridge lit up simultaneously. Admiral, your ship is now experiencing cascading system failures across all primary networks. Estimated time to total power loss 4 minutes and 17 seconds. How? How are you doing this? The same way I improved your systems, Admiral. By understanding them. Touré stepped back into view. Admiral Corvin, Medic Marcus has just demonstrated that he can disable your flagship without firing a shot, without boarding your vessel, without using any weapons whatsoever. All he needs is technical knowledge and a medical scanner. Technical knowledge that you provided. Admiral Corvin turned to me with murderous intent. Sir, technical knowledge that allowed us to save 237 Corvani lives through improved medical procedures, enhanced defensive capabilities, and tactical cooperation. Riley made one final adjustment. All systems on the flagship returned to normal operation. Better than normal operation. Admiral, I have restored your ship to full functionality. Enhanced functionality. Your weapons are now operating at 104% rated capacity. Your shields are reinforced. Your engines are optimized. Your life support systems have been improved. Why? Because, Admiral, my job is to save lives. All lives. Captain Torres activated another display showing the entire hegemony fleet. Admittedly, we can do this for every ship in your fleet. We can make your entire navy better than it has ever been. Or, Riley added quietly, we can show you what happens to ships whose technical specifications we understand when they insist on hostile action. The threat hung in the space between fleets like a loaded plasma cannon. Admiral, I said carefully, I recommend accepting their cooperation proposal. And if I refuse, Torres and Riley exchanged one of those looks that had become familiar over the past 6 days, the look that said they were about to demonstrate capabilities that redefined everything you thought you knew about warfare. Admiral Torres said slowly. Are you familiar with the concept of cascading system failures? Of course. Are you familiar with the concept of simultaneous cascading system failures across multiple vessels? Admiral Corvan's face went pale. You could not possibly disable an entire fleet. Admiral Riley said with terrifying calm. I disabled your most secure planetary defense grid in 14 minutes. Your fleet is using the same basic technology, the same design principles, the same tactical assumptions. How long? Admiral Corvan's voice was barely a whisper. For all 260 vessels. Approximately 6 minutes. Maybe 7, depending on crew cooperation. 6 minutes to disable our entire fleet. 6 minutes to demonstrate why conventional warfare is obsolete when you are fighting people who understand your technology better than you do. Torres nodded. Admiral, we are not threatening to destroy your fleet. We are offering to upgrade it. And if we refuse the upgrade, then we provide a very thorough education on why conventional fleet tactics are insufficient against human capabilities. I watched Admiral Corvan struggle with concepts that had taken me 6 days to begin understanding. Enemies who defeated you by making you better. Soldiers who won wars by ending them. Medics who redefined warfare through competence instead of violence. Admiral, I said quietly, they have been demonstrating restraint. What you have seen is them being helpful. Restraint? Sir, they could have disabled our defensive grid permanently. Instead, they improved it. They could have eliminated our wounded through neglect. Instead, they provided better medical care than our own facilities. They could have demanded surrender. Instead, they offered partnership. Admiral Corvan looked at the tactical displays showing his improved flagship, then at the medic who had accomplished it with a medical scanner. What exactly are you proposing? Captain Torres smiled. Admiral, we are proposing that you stop fighting a war and start solving problems. Problems? The resource conflicts that started this war. The territorial disputes that perpetuate it. The technological limitations that make both our civilizations less than they could be. Riley stepped forward. Admiral, humans have a saying. If your only tool is a hammer, every problem looks like a nail. You have been treating resource allocation as a military problem. It is a military problem. No, Admiral. It is an engineering problem. A logistics problem. A cooperation problem. Military solutions are what you use when cooperation solutions fail. And if cooperation fails... Riley's expression shifted. For the first time in 6 days, he looked like something other than a calm professional medic. Admiral, cooperation has not failed yet. We would prefer that it never does. Why? Because, Admiral, what you have seen is me being non-combat. You do not want to see what happens when human medical personnel decide that combat is necessary. The implications hit me like a supernova. Non-combat. Riley Marcus was classified as non-combat personnel. Everything he had demonstrated, everything he had accomplished, everything that had redefined my understanding of human warfare capability. He was their medic. Admiral Corvan, I said urgently, accept their proposal. Why? Sir, if this is what their non-combat personnel can accomplish, what do you think their actual soldiers are capable of? Admiral Corvan stared at me, then at Riley Marcus, then at his own tactical displays showing a flagship that was performing better than it ever had. Captain Torres, what are your terms for cooperation? Technology sharing, medical cooperation, resource development partnerships, and a fundamental change in how both our species approach conflict resolution. And if we violate these agreements? Torres gestured toward Riley Marcus. Admiral, you have spent the last hour watching our medic demonstrate what happens when humans apply problem-solving skills to military challenges. Yes, our actual soldiers are much more creative problem-solvers. Admiral Corvan was quiet for a long time. Finally, he activated his fleet-wide communication array. All ships, this is Admiral Corvan. Stand down from combat alert. Prepare for cooperation protocols. Admiral, his tactical officer's voice came through the comm. What are cooperation protocols? I have absolutely no idea. But I suspect we are about to learn. 3 hours later, I watched Riley Marcus working with our fleet engineers to upgrade the power systems on every ship in the Hegemony Navy. Not disable. Not destroy. Upgrade. Crowdman, I said quietly. Update our tactical assessment of human warfare capabilities. Sir, how should I classify this engagement? I watched a medic teaching our most experienced engineers how to make their ships better. I watched human soldiers working alongside Corvani tactical specialists to develop new defensive doctrine. I watched enemies becoming partners because one species had decided that winning wars meant ending them. Cronmain classify this as the day we learned what the phrase non-combat personnel really means when applied to humans. And what does it mean, sir? It means, Krellmin, that we never want to see their combat personnel. Riley Marcus looked up from his work and smiled at me. That same calm, professional expression he had worn while single-handedly redefining galactic warfare doctrine. Senior Analyst, we are finished with the fleet upgrades. Would you like to see the performance improvements? Riley Marcus, I said carefully. May I ask you a personal question? Of course. What would you have done if Admiral Corvan had refused cooperation and commenced orbital bombardment? Riley's expression did not change. I would have disabled his fleet and provided medical treatment for the survivors. In 6 minutes? Approximately, maybe less. And then I would have continued my job as a medic, saving lives and solving problems. I stared at him. Riley Marcus, you redefined warfare in 14 minutes using medical equipment and technical knowledge. You improved our defenses while dismantling them. You offered to heal our enemies while defeating them. What does that make you? Riley Marcus smiled that terrifying human smile. Senior Analyst, that makes me non-combat personnel. And that, I realized, was the most frightening thing anyone had ever said to me. Because if Riley Marcus was what humans considered non-combat, what in the name of the galaxy were their actual warriors capable of? I decided I never wanted to find out. Some questions, I had learned, were better left unanswered. The war ended 6 weeks later. Not through superior firepower or tactical brilliance or technological advantage. It ended because Riley Marcus taught us that the most effective way to defeat an enemy is to turn them into a friend. And humans, I learned, are very good teachers. Even the ones they call non-combat.